In contrast, Amber Heard has faced a much more tumultuous road. After the trial, she retreated from the public eye, moving to Spain with her young daughter in an attempt to rebuild her life far from the relentless glare of American media. There, Heard sought solace in a quieter existence, occasionally making appearances at film festivals and working on smaller, independent projects in Europe. While she maintained a loyal base of supporters who continued to argue that she had been unfairly vilified, Heard struggled to regain the momentum of her career. Offers from major studios grew scarce, and she found herself largely excluded from the high-profile roles she once aspired to. In candid interviews, she has expressed a desire to focus on her daughter and live a life less driven by fame, but the shadow of the trial has proven difficult to escape. Heard's name remains a lightning rod for controversy and every new public move she makes is heavily scrutinized, dissected, and often weaponized on social media. Meanwhile, the broader cultural impact of the Depp-Heard saga continues to reverberate. Their case exposed deep fractures in public attitudes toward domestic violence, gender dynamics, and celebrity accountability. Supporters of Depp hailed his victory as a triumph against false accusations and a corrective to what they saw as a media environment too quick to cancel men based on allegations alone. Meanwhile, advocates for domestic abuse survivors worried that the trial's outcome, and particularly the online ridicule aimed at Heard, would discourage real victims from coming forward, fearing public humiliation and disbelief. The discourse has become increasingly complex, with some acknowledging that both Depp and Heard exhibited deeply toxic behavior, refusing to paint either as a simple villain or hero. Documentaries, podcasts, and think pieces analyzing the case from every conceivable angle have proliferated, ensuring that their story remains a critical point of reference in conversations about power, fame, and justice. For Depp, 2025 represents a cautious but steady climb back into public favor. While he enjoys a renewed appreciation for his craft, he remains wary of the fame machine that once chewed him up. He keeps his circle tight, granting interviews sparingly and appearing at public events selectively. Depp's relationships with his children, especially with his daughter Lily Rose Depp, have been another focal point of his post-trial life. Lily Rose, now an established actress and model in her own right, has often been seen publicly supporting her father, subtly reinforcing the image of a man who, despite his flaws, remains beloved by those closest to him. Depp's focus has turned more toward legacy than stardom, and his projects now often reflect a deep yearning for authenticity, artistic expression, and emotional truth. Heard, on the other hand, grapples with the persistent reality that no matter how far she distances herself geographically, she cannot entirely outrun the ghost of the trial. Offers for acting roles remain limited, and though she has spoken about exploring directing and writing, tangible projects have yet to materialize in a significant way. Financially, the settlement she reached with Depp allowed her to avoid complete ruin, but the lasting damage to her public image has had a chilling effect on her career prospects. Nevertheless, Heard remains defiant in her own way, choosing to live with as much dignity as possible rather than engage in ongoing public battles. Her future remains uncertain, and whether she will ever fully rehabilitate her image in the eyes of the broader public remains a lingering question. The relationship between Depp and Heard, though legally severed, continues to cast a long shadow. Over both their lives, neither seems eager to reopen old wounds by reigniting public battles, but neither can completely disentangle from the other in the cultural imagination. Their saga, now etched into the annals of Hollywood history, stands as a cautionary tale about fame, love, betrayal, and the high cost of public conflict. As 2025 unfolds, their lives move forward in parallel, forever marked by a story that once captivated and divided the world. Amber Heard's journey since the trial has been marked by a delicate balance between resilience and retreat. Living in Spain has allowed her a degree of anonymity she could never have achieved in the United States, where the media frenzy around her personal life made normalcy impossible. She has been spotted occasionally in Madrid and the surrounding countryside, leading a much quieter, more subdued life than the glamorous Hollywood existence she once knew. Heard has found solace in raising her daughter away from the harsh scrutiny that once defined her daily reality. Her rare interviews, typically given to European outlets, focus less on the sensational aspects of her past and more on her attempts to heal, offering candid reflections on the toll public shaming and relentless litigation have taken on her mental health. She emphasizes mindfulness, self-care, and the importance of motherhood as anchors in a life otherwise upended by scandal. Her acting projects, though smaller in scale, have received modest praise, especially in indie film circles where critics appreciate her willingness to take on emotionally complex, often difficult roles. Public opinion towards Heard has evolved incrementally. While a significant portion of the public continues to view her through a lens of suspicion, a growing countercurrent of empathy has begun to emerge, driven by broader societal reevaluations of how women, especially controversial women, are treated in the media. Discussions about misogyny, narrative framing, and the dangers of trial by internet have shifted slightly in her favor. Documentaries and podcasts dissecting the Depp-Heard case have shed light on the uneven ways in which both were portrayed, questioning whether Heard's vilification was proportionate or fueled by underlying biases against women who refuse to conform to expected roles of victimhood or villainy, yet the stain of the trial is stubborn. Heard remains a deeply polarizing figure, admired by some for her strength under fire, and reviled by others who view her as emblematic of deeper cultural grievances. The legal entanglements between Depp and Heard have mostly come to an end, but not without lingering complexities. Reports that surfaced in early 2025 indicated a quiet, behind-the-scenes negotiation to settle outstanding financial obligations from the defamation judgment. Sources close to both camps suggested that Depp agreed to accept a reduced payout, prioritizing closure and privacy over continued public battles. In exchange, Heard reportedly agreed to waive her rights to pursue further appeals and to uphold strict confidentiality terms, effectively placing a legal lid on any further disclosures about the trial's particulars. Despite this, speculation about Heard's next moves continues to swirl. Industry rumors suggest she has been approached by multiple publishers with lucrative offers for a tell-all memoir, an opportunity that could simultaneously restore her narrative control and expose her to renewed legal risks. Whether Heard will ultimately take that leap remains unknown, as insiders describe her as deeply conflicted between the desire to share her truth and the fear of reopening old wounds. The Depp-Heard saga's cultural footprint has become almost archetypal, symbolizing the fractures and contradictions of a society grappling with issues of power, gender, justice, and media influence. Their conflict is frequently cited in university classrooms, legal symposiums, and think pieces examining the fallout of the Oz of Me Too era. For Depp's supporters, his courtroom triumph represents a moment of vindication, a needed recalibration against what they perceive as a rush to judgment culture where accusations are treated as convictions. For Heard's advocates, her public destruction serves as a grim warning that even in an age supposedly more attuned to the realities of abuse, a woman can still be silenced, ridiculed, and exiled for daring to speak out. In 2025, the case remains a living artifact of an ongoing cultural battle, its significance continually debated, its lessons yet fully understood. Both Depp and Heard, whether they like it or not, are tethered forever to a story much larger than themselves, one that continues to provoke reflection, argument, and unresolved questions about justice and humanity. Johnny Depp's personal life, in 2025, reflects a man who has weathered profound storms and emerged with a deeper sense of self-awareness. Now in his early 60s, Depp projects an air of quiet introspection rather than the rebellious bravado that once defined his younger years. Those closest to him describe a man who has retreated from the chaos of celebrity culture, preferring intimate gatherings, long studio sessions, and hours spent painting or playing music. His work with the Hollywood vampires has given him a creative outlet that feels both safe and liberating, allowing him to express himself without the constant scrutiny that accompanies his acting career. When he does choose to make public appearances, they are carefully curated and often tied to his artistic endeavors rather than celebrity events. His relationships with Lily Rose and Jack Depp remain a cornerstone of his life. Lily Rose, now a bona fide star in her own right, has skillfully managed to establish her independence, delicately balancing her family ties with a career that is increasingly defined by her own achievements rather than her father's legacy. Jack, who has largely stayed out of the spotlight, enjoys a quieter life, and Depp often speaks of both children with a quiet pride, crediting them with providing the emotional grounding he needed through the most turbulent chapters of his life. Amber Heard, while living a comparatively quieter existence, has redirected her energy toward activism and humanitarian work. No longer the fixture of Hollywood premieres and glossy magazine spreads, Heard has reinvented herself as an advocate for women's rights, refugee aid, and environmental protection. Her work with NGOs has earned her respect in activist circles, even as mainstream media continues to view her through the lens of her past controversies. She frequently participates in conferences, charity events, and grassroots campaigns, focusing on systemic issues rather than her personal battles. Although her acting career has not fully recovered, Heard has carved a niche in independent European cinema, taking on challenging roles that allow her to rebuild her artistic credibility outside the shadow of her tabloid reputation. Her performances, stripped of blockbuster expectations, have been met with critical, if not commercial acclaim, and she seems content to slowly, steadily reclaim a sense of purpose and identity. The media's self-examination in 2025 marks one of the more unexpected developments of the Depp-Heard aftermath. Journalists and commentators who once participated in the frenzied coverage of the trial are now publicly reflecting on the ethical lapses that characterized much of the reporting. Documentaries investigating the trial's media circus have become popular, revealing just how deeply the narrative was shaped by viral moments, selective editing, and social media sensationalism. Some pieces ask hard questions about whether true justice is possible when public perception is molded by memes and TikTok clips rather than careful analysis. The portrayal of both Depp and Heard has been reassessed in some circles, acknowledging that the caricatures created during the trial served to entertain rather than inform. These reflections have sparked broader discussions about media responsibility, audience complicity, and the dangerous incentives built into the current digital ecosystem. Meanwhile, the entertainment industry continues to circle the story, sensing ongoing public fascination. Reports suggest that several major streaming services are developing dramatized versions of the Depp-Heard saga, with projects ranging from docuseries to scripted limited series. Some are based on court transcripts, while others promise a behind-the-scenes look at the media circus itself. Though neither Depp nor Heard has indicated any desire to be directly involved in these portrayals, industry insiders speculate that even dramatizations without their endorsement will find eager audiences. Hollywood's relentless hunger for scandal, redemption arcs, and celebrity downfall ensures that the story, however painful for its subjects, will remain a fixture of popular culture for the foreseeable future. Even as Depp and Heard strive to move forward with their lives, their entwined saga seems destined to be retold and re-examined for years to come, a symbol of an era where the line between justice and entertainment became dangerously blurred. 2025 unfolds, public opinion about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard remains a vivid illustration of how deeply polarized society has become when it comes to narratives of victimhood, justice, and celebrity. Despite the passage of time, supporters on both sides remain steadfast, often entrenched in their positions, with social media still serving as the primary battleground. Depp's loyalists continue to champion him as a survivor who bravely fought back against what they view as false and malicious accusations, celebrating his every career move as a triumph of perseverance and truth. For these fans, every accolade Depp receives is not just a personal victory for him, but a vindication of their unwavering support. Conversely, Heard's advocates maintain that she is a courageous woman who dared to challenge a powerful cultural icon, only to be crushed under the weight of celebrity bias, misogyny, and a deeply flawed media system. They view the ongoing hostility she faces as evidence of how difficult it remains for survivors of abuse to speak out, especially when their abuser is beloved by millions. For more neutral observers, the Depp-Heard saga has always been less black and white. Many recognize that their relationship was deeply toxic on both sides, a combustible mix of emotional volatility, substance abuse, fame-fueled pressures, and mutual destructiveness. They see in the case a cautionary tale about the perils of lionizing or demonizing individuals without appreciating the broader complexities involved. As time goes on, the consensus among more measured voices suggests that neither Depp nor Heard fits neatly into the archetypes of hero or villain. Instead, they are emblematic of how deeply flawed people can cause profound harm to one another, and how public perception often distorts those human realities into simplistic, marketable stories. In 2025, the narrative surrounding their conflict has shifted away from the courtroom dramas and into an ongoing reflection about the long-term damage inflicted by such public wars. Both Depp and Heard have suffered irreparable harm in different ways, personally, professionally, and emotionally. While Depp's career has seen a cautious resurgence, the scars of the ordeal remain evident in his wary interviews and selective project choices. Heard, meanwhile, continues to battle public skepticism and remains burdened by the shadow of the trial, even as she carves out a quieter, more purposeful existence. The emotional and reputational wounds they bear are not easily mended, and the years consumed by litigation, humiliation, and relentless public judgment represent a cost that neither can fully recoup. The cultural legacy of the Depp-Heard conflict will almost certainly endure as one of the most dissected celebrity narratives of the modern era. What began as a private love story between two high-profile figures evolved into a public battle of historic proportions, one that revealed not only the personal flaws of its participants, but also the broader societal fissures that continue to shape conversations about fame, justice, gender, and media influence. Their story has transcended the individuals at its center, becoming less about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard as people, and more about what they symbolize to different segments of society. It is a narrative that touches on the fragility of reputation. In a world where information, both accurate and misleading, travels faster than truth can catch up. In the viral age, a single moment captured on video, a single phrase taken out of context, can redefine a public figure's legacy in an instant. Both Depp and Heard became victims of this phenomenon, their identities flattened into caricatures of villainy or victimhood, depending on which side of the cultural divide one stands. The complicated realities of intimate partner violence were also thrust into the spotlight, but not necessarily in ways that led to greater public understanding. Instead, the public spectacle of their trials and counter-accusations often reduced a deeply painful and nuanced subject into a form of entertainment. Each revelation, each tearful testimony, each damaging audio clip was consumed, dissected, memified, and broadcast across platforms by millions. In the process, the complexity of abusive relationships, where harm can be mutual, where trauma can manifest in toxic behaviors on both sides, was often lost. Society's thirst for clear-cut heroes and villains made it difficult to hold space for uncomfortable truths that both Depp and Heard could have simultaneously been victims and perpetrators in different ways, that the dynamics of their relationship were likely more tangled than either side's courtroom narrative could fully capture. As Depp and Heard continue their separate paths toward personal reinvention in 2025, the world watches them not merely out of voyeuristic curiosity, but because their saga holds up a revealing mirror to the era we live in. It reflects a culture obsessed with celebrity downfall, addicted to public shaming, and quick to cast judgment before all the facts are known. Their story exposes how truth can be quickly obscured by perception, how the machinery of fame can turn real human suffering into spectacle, and how even the legal system can struggle to deliver anything resembling true justice in an environment shaped by memes, misinformation, and outrage-driven algorithms. For Johnny Depp, the post-trial years have been a careful balancing act. He has worked to reclaim his narrative not through aggressive rebuttals or inflammatory statements, but through a quieter, more introspective approach. His career choices post-trial, favoring smaller, artistically ambitious projects over blockbuster franchises, signal a man determined to be remembered for his craft rather than his controversies. Depp's decision to stay largely silent on matters related to Heard reflects a conscious effort to shift the conversation back to his work and his passion for music, rather than perpetuating the cycle of public mudslinging. Yet even with this strategy, he cannot fully escape the shadow of the conflict that defined the previous decade of his life. Every public appearance, every new project carries with it the subtext of his legal battles and the divided opinions that still surround him. Amber Heard's journey has been even more challenging. Retreating to Spain with her daughter, she has embarked on a quieter but no less significant transformation. Heard's pivot toward activism and her choice to focus on independent films suggest an attempt to redefine herself outside of the Hollywood system that once embraced then seemingly abandoned her. Her few public appearances and interviews are characterized by a guardedness, a sense that she has learned, perhaps the hard way, that vulnerability in the public arena can be weaponized. Heard's narrative now intertwines resilience with caution as she advocates for women's rights and humanitarian causes while steering clear of directly engaging with her past unless absolutely necessary. Her life today illustrates the enduring challenges faced by women who come forward with allegations of abuse, particularly when their stories become fodder for global entertainment. Meanwhile, the media institutions that covered the Depp Heard saga have also begun a period of reflection, albeit slowly and unevenly. In 2025, several documentaries and retrospective pieces have taken a more critical view of how the trial was covered, acknowledging the ways sensationalism, misogyny, and the monetization of outrage shaped public opinion. Some journalists have expressed regret at how easily narratives became polarized, how complex realities were reduced to hashtags and soundbites, and how the relentless need for viral content overshadowed thoughtful reporting. These reflections suggest a growing awareness that the Depp Heard saga may serve as a case study in the future about the ethical responsibilities of the media in an age dominated by clicks and engagement metrics. There are whispers, too, of Hollywood's plans to dramatize the story for a new generation. Streaming platforms, ever eager to capitalize on true crime and scandal-driven programming, are reportedly developing docudramas and fictionalized accounts based on the events. While Depp and Heard themselves are unlikely to participate and perhaps have no interest in seeing their pain reimagined for entertainment, it is almost inevitable that their story will continue to be retold, reinterpreted, and repackaged for audiences hungry for drama. This raises further ethical questions about the commodification of real trauma, about consent and narrative ownership, and about how society digests the personal wreckage of others for amusement, whether history will ultimately view Johnny Depp and Amber Heard with more empathy than the present moment affords them remains an open question. Perhaps as the immediacy of the controversy fades and the cultural landscape continues to evolve, future generations will approach their story with a more nuanced understanding, seeing in it not a morality play but a human tragedy exacerbated by fame, addiction, and the distortions of a media ecosystem that rewards polarization. For now, however, their saga remains a potent reminder that in the battle for truth, perception often wins the day, and that the real healing, if it comes at all, must happen far from the cameras in the quiet, messy, and deeply personal work of moving forward from the wreckage. Their story is a lasting testament to the enduring power and peril of fame, love, and human frailty when exposed under the relentless, unforgiving gaze of the modern world.